Welcome to this guided series for new players for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Now we've reached a point in the series where we're going to move into the realm of some ifs, buts and maybes. The reason for that is that to this point what we've had to do has been fairly directed by the needs of building our first town and fulfilling its actual needs. And then of course we talked about actual manual construction. So going forward now, videos like this one will be more me explaining the thought process and giving you a number of insights and tips about how to make the relevant decisions to be able to accomplish what you're trying to do. And of course in this video we are going to move on to the big one, which is going to have a lot of ifs, buts and maybes, and that is industry. Now before we get into talking about industry itself, first thing I've got to do is talk as an economist. I know it's not exactly a very exciting subject, but there are two mechanics related to the economy that you do need to be aware of because it will drive your decision process. So what are these two parts of the economy that can give you headaches in the long term? The first one is that this game has an inbuilt inflation rate. I think it's between 2 and 3%. I've never been exactly too sure what the exact figure is, and truthfully it's not particularly relevant. But the thing is, if I come to the economy and show you the current prices, there are a number of items in here which will kind of really ruin your costs over time. The first one is electro components. You can see a ton of electro components costs 1,208.85 rubles. Electronics is probably one of the more expensive items that you will have to purchase. Will cost 1,399.97 rubles per ton. And the thing about electronics is that it's going to be a constant demand, and it will be a raising cost against keeping your workers happy, because especially as the more educated they become, because educated workers consume more electronics than uneducated workers, or basically educated workers. So the cost of importing electronics will really escalate over a time, and there is a point in the game where if you haven't dealt with this issue or built a very strong economy, that the cost of importing electronics will absolutely cripple your economy no matter what you're doing. And then of course the other big one is steel. Now the moment the import cost of steel is 320.65 rubles per ton. Now the problem with steel is that virtually everything you're going to build in this game will require steel, and some of the bigger buildings will require phenomenal amounts of steel. So for example, if I come down and find you look at the oil, where's it? Where's the oil? Oh, we can't see the oil refinery at the moment because it's covered, isn't it? Trying to think of a building that, well, if I show you one of the really big universities, the medical university here, see this needs 217 tons of steel. So as the inflation rate moves forward, that cost of steel will gradually impact your economy, and at the very best it will slow down your ability to develop your economy. At the worst, it eventually will cripple it. Now the second mechanic is a little bit more subtle. It's something that is a consequence of the way that you actually play the game. That there is a mechanism, and I'm not going to try and explain it because it's a very deep rabbit hole, but the basic overview of it is that, say for example you set up an industry, which we will be doing in this video, where you're exporting large quantities of a specific item across the border. What will happen is if your exports reach a certain threshold, the price that you will be getting for that export will start to fall to a certain point. And the converse is also true in the sense that if you import large quantities of resources, then what will happen is that the cost will start to rise. The reason this was introduced was to prevent an exploit, which I will be using in a little while with respect to oil. And the other one was that people were setting up rail links to import crops, because crops is quite an important underpin of industry. We'll be talking a lot more about that later on. And what was happening is where they were using trains to import the crops to make the items, which they were then exporting back through the border by giving added value. And so, and of course, what if you take that approach, what will happen is that your the price of crops will rise, and then eventually make your industry unprofitable. Unemployment, I think I know what's causing this. We just see, because early in the game I set up a, yeah, there it is there. We're just going to clear that. We don't need it now. The citizens, we've got enough citizens now for them to find their own way around the map. So these are the two hidden costs. As I say, when that was introduced into the game, they actually produced a community report with an attachment to a spreadsheet, because every good has a certain level. But I'll warn you guys, I spent several hours trying to work out what that actually meant, how it worked, and eventually I just accepted the fact that if I do one of those things, export too much or import too much, there is a consequence. The other thing I also want to mention, seeing we've got this open, is that I am recording this prior to the full release on the 20th of June 2024. So if you are playing your game on the full release, there are some differences. Most of them are quality of life differences. Functionally, as far as I know, there's no major changes. And one of them is the fact that the messages up here are now color coded. And I think there's also a drop down here which allows you to look at other things. So there will be some minor differences to the that you could see between your game and what I'm doing here. But of course, that's my fault in the sense that I made the assumption that the devs had finalised the release and there wouldn't be any changes. But of course, that is not necessarily true. But none of them are majorly functional. So in theory, these videos this series will still remain valid. It's just that there'll be slightly cosmetic differences. Right, that out of the way, what I'm going to do is put away my accountant hat and now bring on my industrialist hat, because I want to very briefly talk about the decision process that you may need to go through when you are planning industry. Now, there's three types of decisions that you're going to make when you choose an industry. The first one is, does it cut costs? And an example of that is the going over to manual construction, because if you watch that video, you will see that I explained that by going to manual construction, you save the cost of an auto purchase by actually providing your own workers who are effectively working for free. Other ways that you can cut costs come in the form of making decisions such as fuel self-sufficiency, which is probably a good segue into the second part of the decision-making process, is does that industry you're building help self-sufficiency? There are instances where you can go for self-sufficiency, but you won't make money from it. And the best example of that is the construction industry, which is to say making cement, concrete production of prefabs, asphalt and bricks. That will make your economy more cost efficient and also self-sufficient by producing those construction industries, but don't expect to make any money from them, especially if you are having to purchase in fuel, because the very fact that you are loading those items up to take to the border to sell them will be actually consumed by the cost of the fuel, and the profit margin will be incredibly small. So the pursuit of setting up your own construction industry supply system is more for self-sufficiency. Then of course the last one is about profit. It's probably worth emphasizing that the decision process will include all three of those. Is it cutting my costs? Is it driving towards self-sufficiency? And can I make a profit from it? The reason for that is that the big ones are food, clothes, and alcohol for an early profit. Another one is, of course, being fuel self-sufficient, because, of course, fuel creates a massive fiscal drag on your economy because everything that's moved, it requires fuel. Another one is electricity. Now, electricity is a little bit of a special case that you can make money by exporting electricity, but not that vast amount. So, and also the import costs on electricity aren't that high to begin with. If we show you there, I mean, you can see here we're kind of, well, go back to last month, we spent less than 1,000 rubles on electricity. The thing about the reason for becoming self-sufficient in electricity is the fact, if I show you here, you can see the maximum wattage we can actually import from here is 18 megawatts. But in fact, already we've got a restriction on that because we don't have access to the 18 megawatt power cable. So the maximum we can import, and this also applies to export, is 18 megawatts. But at the moment, the maximum we can import is 15 megawatts. The reason for going to electricity is, yes, you can make a small profit, and you can, but the main driving factor is self-sufficiency. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense unless you've got access to coal, because of course the coal, in order to make power, you need a coal-fired power station. And this is probably a good example again of the cost-benefit ratio. To build a coal-powered power plant will take 287 tons of steel, which means that importing the steel will increasingly provide that constraint that I was talking about. So that out of the way, I'm going to put my industrialist hat out of the way and now start to put my player hat back on, because what we've got to do now is think about what industries do we actually need to, one, to make a profit, and also what will be self-sufficient. Well, with this map, if you've been following the series, you'll be aware that I kind of had a little bit of a hidden bonus out here, in the sense that kind of found oil out here by doing a little bit of surveying, just to show you. Oops, no, it's fossil fuels. And we've got oil out here. Now, having oil close to the border has, how can you say, a fringe benefit. And I know some players will say that this is can be an exploit. So what I'm going to do is show you this exploit. Although, now if you're an oil-rich country, you would export oil, because that's exactly what happens. That's the way the rest other countries that don't have oil get the oil. Now, so what I'm going to do is put down the pump jacks first, because we need to find out the oil. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that these pump jacks will give you a quality of source. Now, this applies to mines as well. What that means is that the actual output of a pump jack, which it doesn't think, it tells you that your maximum daily production is 7 tons of oil. But because this has got a quality of 69%, you're not going to get the full 7 tons, or 70 or 80%. You're probably going to get about 6.5 tons. And so what we're going to do is put this down here. The other thing also is that these will overlap. So what you need to do is, sometimes we're looking at, I saw a 51 there. I'm sure I saw a 51. Just going to put a 51 here. Now, so I'm going to place the pump jacks first, simply there. Now, the pipes are facing away from the border for a reason I explained when we got here. We've got 33% now. I'm going to press T to flip that round. So I want the road going that way. I don't think we're going to get better than 33% of this, are we? So we're going to stay at 33%. I think there's another patch of oil here. This is 39, 40, 41, 42. So the best we're going to get here is 42. Now, of course, because these are overlapping, they will affect each other. So the ideal is to place them like that. But in this circumstance, I'm kind of bending the rules a little bit by letting them overlap. In fact, we can actually, was that overlapping? That doesn't come into there. We could bring this in, maybe kind of, we're getting 40%. I'm sure I saw 40%. And I'm just going to put you about there. So we've now got our pump jacks. Now, of course, we've also got this is made of border exit entrance. So we're going to need to actually put a proper road in here. I am going to go straight for no. I'm going to put a mud road here. Press that so it comes that way. This is going to be an asphalt road, so I am going to auto build this, so there's no point messing around with kind of planning things the way they are. I'll take you out the center. And what I want to do is come out here. Now, long term, I'm probably going to be thinking, I'd like to put the first town here. out here so that we can come out here. But of course, because we got oil here, we're going to need an oil refinery, and I'm kind of thinking oil refinery about here, because we're going to need to put it where, but the trouble is the town would be there. It could be nice to put the oil refinery here, actually. We've got a bit of a dead zone, and we could have the town out there, or yeah, so I think we could probably have the oil refinery in this direction, actually. So kind of, yeah, I think we can work around this. Now, what I do want to do is come out 200 meters this way. It's out there. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be precise. And I'm going to come out, push this out a little bit further. Oops, no. That's because it's snapping and I don't want it snapping. We come here, press F1. I'm going to come out a little bit further like that. And then we're going to just select that. And we're going to put a connection there. So we've now got our access road. Now the next thing we've got to consider is our railway, because this is, I made an early decision in the series to make this our principal rail line. So what we're going to do now, this has got 3 connections. You can use all 3 connections. Personally, I prefer to just use the 2. We are going to go out in a dead straight line like that for a reason which will become apparent. Now, obviously, we want trains coming in on here on the dual track. Always use dual track close to the border. Don't ever mess about with single track lines. If you're using a medium custom shed, by all means come in double track and then come down to a single track. We've got a crossover there. Now, what I want to do here, just going to accept that. I want to get rid of those, annoying things there. And then what we're going to do is, the other thing also, whenever you plan railways, even if you're going to electrify them, always plan in concrete. For example, say that the construction train was coming in here. It's impossible, but just as an example, what will happen is that if you've laid the electric tracks to be built, the construction train come out will do that short length. Then once it's got to there, it'll go back and pick up the electro components to do the overhead cabling, because it's like roads, it's a 2-phase process. If you lay concrete track, what the construction train will come out and it will keep going, accepting new jobs until it runs out of resources. Then it will go back to the depot. So when you're when you're manually constructing railway track, what you want to do is plan in concrete and build in concrete, and then after that use the construction train to upgrade it. So what I'm going to do now is just put that there, and we're going to run down here. And this is about, I don't know if you guys actually saw that. I'll just do it again just to show you. What I'm doing is, if you watch the length of the track, what I'm looking for is a length of track about, well, 200 meters is probably, okay, that's 200. I don't know if I could get another. Actually, that's 200. I'll push you out this way, and I want another about 50 meters like that. Actually, we want 50 meters this way. This will make sense, I promise. And then we're going to come out that way. I'm going to come you there, put you there, and bring you back that way, and put this here like that. What I've done here is effectively created 3 sidings. The reason for that is that this construction shed can get really busy. And what you're going to get, because of course we're doing right-hand traffic, so imagine a train coming down here, and in fact I probably could do, no, that would be okay. A train coming down here, one will queue up here, while you can have up to 2 trains in there, and then if another one comes in, it will queue alongside, and it will queue alongside like that. So what you're creating is a kind of marshalling yard here. That's just a bit of pre-planning, just so that we won't shut off our rail lines. I mean, I can change it later on, but I just like, I mean, of course, if this hill wasn't here, it would have come out parallel to the border, but we had to compensate for the hill. Anyway, back to where we're going. Now, so we've now built in our, what we call it, here. And what we're going to do now is actually connect up the pipes. And what we need to do is go here. Now, there's kind of 2 types of pipes. There's what we want is many to one, but there's also underground pipes as terminals as well. Which one you use is totally up to you. I tend to use the above ground ones simply because I find it a little bit easier to, how can you put it? I find it a little bit easier to understand here, but there is a length that what will happen is that when you can't build a pipe anymore, and what I want to do is just put you in about here. We're going to turn off the pipe because I don't want it, because we're going to put underground pipes in. So come in here. I would strongly recommend when you're laying out, that's the wrong way around actually. Okay, try again. That's the one I'm looking for. So we'll just drop you there. Press T. I would like the road to be on this side. Not that it makes that much difference. Underground, and we'll connect you to there. Now, of course, the only terminal is 3 into 1, but we've got 4 of these. So what we've got to do now, I'm just going to measure how far out is we can get another one just in front. So again, we're just going to have to put in, don't press T, so they're on, the roads are on the same side. And what we're going to do is stack one this way, like that. Put this in here, and then we will connect that to there, like that. And then we'll just accept that. Now we've got to a point, we've connected up all our oil pumps. Now we've got a little bit of a decision to make. Now, I'm actually going to do a bit of future proofing here, guys, because obviously to begin with, we're going to export the oil, but eventually, well, I've already said that I wanted to put an oil refinery out here. One way I can actually future proof this is by doing this, like that. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Actually, I'll keep it simple because that was my realistic mental state coming in. Because with auto purchase, we can always make changes later on, and we're going to hook that to there. So we've now got, what we got now is our oil flowing up to here. We've got a tank to store it in, and then you got one more building to put in, which is this oil loading truck thingy here. Again, if I flip that way, we can drop you in about there. Again, just go underground, and I'll tuck you there. So what we've built here is our oil collection process. So what's going to happen is once we get power out here, these will pump the oil into here, and then what we got here is a collection point where the trucks who are going to be exporting the oil will be picking up from. So the next thing we need to do is put a road system in. Just put that there. Next thing we're going to need is a gas station, because our trucks here come into here. But a gas station just about there. I always like when I put a gas station close to the border, I always like a bit of a long entrance road. The alternative is you use a one-way gas station like this, but for this purposes I think a normal gas station would be okay. But don't ever do something like that with a gas station, especially near the border, because if a truck starts to queue up because there's not enough spaces, he will then block the road. So you want a reasonable amount. Got you there. And the other thing we're going to need is a fairly big distribution office. I think 12 would be a bit too much, so just put in the distribution office next to it like that. And so we've now got we got ability to distribute stuff, we got our oil collection system. Next thing we need to do is bring in power, which means we've got to bring it in from here because we don't have an external power connection there. Now, one thing I do want here is how many live connections have I got here? One left. Now we're going to be, I want to run power out this way. I've also got to run power this way, and I want to run power that way. So what I'm going to do is we're going to pick up a 6-way terminal, and I'm going to put it out about here, lining up with that road there. I'm going to kind of bring this road out a little bit wider and kink it out past there to there. So we got 6-way power high tension cable there, and of course we're going to need another one out here. So I think I can go down to gravel roads to save a bit of cash, because these are going to be service roads. And then what we're going to need here is I suppose we could put you there like that. And go back to roads, except that in this case. And now comes the fun bit. We've only got a maximum of 50 megawatts. We're going to draw a lot of power here, so what I want to do is come here. Oops. Run you all into there. Running along the border like this is, you say, a fairly common trick, because you're not going to use the border unless, of course, you've got some key resource that would do that. Yeah, we're just going to go with that. Now, one thing I will suggest is that when you run long lines of power lines, always put the cursor over them to make sure that they are all connected. Yep, it's all connected. And now we're going to get lift off. What you can do now is, of course, we're going to auto purchase this. You've got a button here that says batch auto run, and what you do is you select this, and then if you press shift, what you can do is kind of select that, and if you let the game run, you'll see everything magically appears all the way out like this. I haven't put in the medium power supplies, but that's okay. Now comes the real fun bit. You go, oh no, don't want to. And I admit I'm enjoying this, because this is a rare experience for me, because I normally play realistic mode all the time. So we've now got here just push there. Build those. Of course, what we got at the moment is nothing is working because we got no power supply, but we can fix that. What I'd like to do, if possible, is have a single substation. We also got to connect up all the roads as well while we're at it. So I need a transformer, so we'll put this amount there. We'll just leave with the auto purchase. No, turn it off, because what I've got to do now is this is a service road, so I don't really want it to go onto there. I'll pick you up through here to here to here to here to here, and then that's connected. Got a dinky little mud footpath. Again, just put it to there. The only thing we got to do now is put a step down transformer in here, power transformer. So what we're going to do now is, I don't want to put it on there. I think if we kind of just put this here like that, and what we need is a, we go 6 megawatts. I think we can just hook that up to there, and then we'll just run you to there. What that should do is, what is that not got? No power supply. Okay, what's gone wrong, game? This is one thing that I can sometimes can be very, very annoying. Helps if you actually build that. Still no build. Okay, this is where we've got. Well, if you ever get a potential broken power supply, it's probably here, because we got 2 cables here that aren't linked together. Build that. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, and I thought I'd checked it, but of course not. It's always a hazard when you run long power lines, and of course with auto purchase it's not a big issue, you can fix it. If you're playing realistic mode, that is a very big issue. And you can see what we got now is there, and what you always with fuel or liquid storage, always make sure you set this button. And you can see we've now got the oil running into here, and what we're going to do now is buy some, I think we'll start with 3 oil tankers. Oil tanker, obviously, whoops, thank you game. Maximum capacity, what we got here, 11, we get 1, 2, 3 of those. First thing we need to do to make sure that this actually works is we need to come to the custom shed and tell it to load fuel and put it in the gas station. I think 30% will be enough. And then what we do then is come up to here, tell it to pick up all the oil, and then we can come back to the custom shed and tell it to export the oil. So we'll start with 3 trucks, because you got to remember is that these guys producing, it kind of gives you an idea of the production. If you want to get into the mass, what you can do is look at this and add up all this, which will then come into this area, and then balance your trucks according to the consumption that's happening in there. But personally, with something like this, I just take a slightly more simplistic view. I wait for them to settle down. If it starts to build up, maybe we can get another one. It's a very rough guess. Like that. And of course now we are making money. Lots of, very, very quickly. This is why this is often regarded as a little bit of an exploit. And of course you've got the consequences that as we export lots and lots of oils, the price will drop. We've just finished some research which we're going to need to take a look at. So yeah, So we've now got an instant money spinner. And what should happen if we let it run for a month? Obviously, we've got our initial setup costs of 345,000, but that will eventually start to show a profit. Now, one thing I will say is that there is no fire station out here, so there's a chance that something out here could catch fire and burn. Now, you can fix that if you really want to make this kind of work for itself. There is a way that you can do it. It's what you do is you build a fire station here and you employ the foreign workers. But again, that's something you do probably in realistic mode because you've got to protect your assets. But to be honest, for a first game, if something catches fire and burns down, you just come back out here and auto rebuild it. So that is an exploit which has turned up for this map. Now, of course, and to give you an idea of how often that happens, that's only probably the second time I've ever had that happen. Although, to be honest, I often play on custom maps anyway, so there's very little chance of me actually finding oil right next to the border like that. But if you do get on a map and there's oil, say within 1 kilometer of a customs post, that will make a profit. Further than 1 kilometer away, then the economics gets a bit dodgy if you're purchasing the fuel, because the cost of the fuel to bring to the customs post will then offset against the cost of the oil. And just to kind of illustrate that, if you come to prices again. As I say, if we look at oil, we're exporting oil. We can sell oil at 98. We can sell oil at 84.23 rubles per ton, but fuel. Fuel is 200 and. But we have to buy fuel at 229.24 rubles per ton. So, and if you look at, sorry for rushing back up here, and each one of these trucks burns a certain amount of fuel. In fact, I'm not going to do it because you've got to convert tons to liters. But at the end of the day, if a truck is, so at the end of the day, if a truck is burning more fuel than when it's making a journey right out to about over there and back again to deliver 11 tons of oil. And of course, bear in mind that this is now dropped down, so we've probably got too many trucks here now, and that's why trucks are starting to park up. So maybe I didn't need that extra oil tanker, but we can always recover that and use it for something else. So the way to look at oil is as a steady income. Now, I don't have that much, so what I want to do just to wind this video up now is talk about the scenario that you don't have a potential oil gold mine sat on the border. What industries would you go for? Now, you could say that the classic start for a new start, especially on a map which has got a really flat area here, is food, clothes and alcohol. The reason for that is that if I just show you the prices, whoops. If I show you the prices, we go back to page 1. Alcohol, you can sell alcohol for 248.46 rubles per ton. Food is you can sell for 117.81 rubles per ton. But the real money maker is actually clothes, which you can sell for 1,344.17 rubles per ton. First thing I do need to do, sorry about this, we've got to, because what I want to do is have the option to do the oil industry very, very quickly. Probably the best industries for making an early profit in this game is food, alcohol and clothes. Now, in order to decide which one's best, is to actually look at what's actually needed. Now, food factory turns 242 tons of crops into 20 tons of food with a full workforce. The alcohol factory turns 30 tons of crops into 6 tons of alcohol, which is a pretty good money spinner, again, as long as it's close to the border. Now, clothes is a little bit more complicated in the sense that you actually need a fabric factory which uses crops and chemicals to produce fabric. Now, one fabric factory will drive 2 clothes factories. So you can see here, the fabric factory produces 5 tons of fabric. The clothing factory produces uses 2.4 tons of fabric to produce clothes, and that's all it needs is the fabric. Now, one top tip, guys, is don't import fabric to make clothes. It can be done, but unless you've got very, very short distances, the profit margins can be a little bit dodgy. And so I'm not going to go through the maths, but you can do it, but it's probably not to be recommended. So if you're going to go for clothes, what you need to do is work on fabric factory as well. What I'm going to do here is actually build all 3. Now this comes back to the self-sufficiency decision that I made. I was talking about in the beginning of the video, because this city is probably a long way away from other resources. Sending a workforce up to the oil refinery would probably be a little bit impractical. So what we're looking at, but we've got plenty of space to expand here. Now I have made a decision for our construction industry up here. So part of the workforce will go to the construction industry, which will be the subject of another video. But I think we've got here is a very good opportunity to make this city into a centre for producing food, clothes and alcohol, because we've got a nice flat area here for a farm, because crops is a key ingredient for many industries on this map, particularly as I've already shown you with the fabric factory turns crops into fabric with the help of chemicals, and of course the food industry here just needs crops, and the same with alcohol. That means that if there's a potential for farms all around, which we have got potential for farms, this is a perfect opportunity to get having a centre for production for expansion. So that out the way, guys. Now comes the fun bit. We've got to design an industry in this area. Now, linking up all the buildings can get a bit complicated, and one thing you can do, which I'm actually going to give you a bit of a demonstration, is that it's based on the same way as I did in the last video with complex junctions. Rather than trying to shoehorn it into here, is to come out here, make sure you turn off auto purchase, and then what we're going to do is actually plan our industry out here. Then what we can do then is pick it up, clone it back to the area that we want to put it in. So the first, just make sure we're on a reasonably flat area. It always pays, if you're going to do this, to be on a flat area. Whoops. And the first thing we're going to need is a warehouse, because that will sit at the center of what we're going to be doing. Now, what I want is the biggest warehouse of all. The reason for that is that if you look at the warehouse, it will quote the what can be stored in here. Be aware that that value is if you say if you can store 1,280 tons of crops. That is if you only store crops. But of course, this is going to be a multi-purpose warehouse. I want it that way, and I'm going to press T to flip it that way, because I want the road to the warehouse coming out this way. Not that we're going to be using the road for the trucks to pick up. We'll be using a cargo shed, but I want the road coming out that way. Now, so we got our warehouse here. Now, the next thing I want to plan is the fabric factory, because we need to connect the fabric factory to the warehouse. But at the same time, I want to leave a connection. Now, one thing I will draw your attention to is you'll see that this is showing water and sewage connections. But if I come into here, you'll see that we don't have water enabled. This is a hint for what you will need to do once you play with water. And the fact that these connections are permanent, if you want to decide to add water to the mix later on, you can do it. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and get that in as close as we can. The shorter the connections, the more money you save. This comes down to cutting costs. Also, the more compact you can make the industry, the better. Although that does come with some risks when it comes to your workforce. Whoops. So we've now got the clothing, the fabric factory, sorry. Now the next thing I'm going to put in is the clothing factory. Now, as I've already mentioned, the fabric factory can support 2 clothing factories, but one of the first clothing factory you're going to build needs to have a direct connection to the fabric factory. I mean, it's not essential, but it's a way of making sure you get maximum production. We're going to drop that. The reason for that is that the clothing factory here has, or the fabric factory, I keep saying, has an export warehouse of 10 tons. Now, what can happen is that if you produce fabric here, it will push the fabric to the warehouse, but there will always be some residual fabric inside of the fabric factory because the warehouse is passive. So, and if you didn't have this connection here, this clothing factory could not pull the fabric that's actually stored in the fabric factory, if that makes sense. So that's the reason why. And then of course what we can do is put in a second clothing factory, which we won't build on the get-go, but we're going to put you in really in close because we're auto building, and actually I want that to make sure that's close. And what we'll do then is just remove that. Basically that's the minimum you can do if you want to just produce clothing, but because I want to make this into a center of excellence, what we're going to do now is we're going to put a what we call it in a food factory in. Now what I want to do is come into here. I'm going to put the clothing factory, not clothing, food factory here. Now I'm going to push this out a little bit further. Not happy with that because the road's on the wrong side. We're going to do that again, and we're just going to push you out, angle you a little bit like that. Now what the food factory is going to do is push that there. Now this setup can be used to begin with. You can put the crops into the warehouse, which you're going to import from the border, but if you're going to make it a center of excellence, you've got to take it to another level, which means that we do need to put a warehouse in. I need the capability to deliver by I think what I will do is we'll go to 8,000 tons, partly because this is a bit longer and it will allow me to make the connection, but also the fact that if we're going to be bringing in crops into this area, and we're going to have a alcohol factory, 2 clothing factories and a food factory operating here, we do need a big storage. Now one thing I will say is that this is not going to work with trucks. When you're considering, this is the reason why I selected the option with rail, because we're going to need to bring in the crops into here by rail. So we got this here, and now the final thing I want to do is put in the alcohol factory. Actually, I'm going to put the alcohol factory in after I've moved it, because I need to get this into position now so that I can decide what I'm going to do with respect to the rail connection. So what we're going to do now is come to here. I think I can afford to take a chance. I don't, oops, nope, no good. And we're going to pick that up, and what we're going to do now is come into here. Part of me kind of, which way can we, this is one reason why I like the cloning option, because you can kind of consider a part of me says that way because then we can, although why am I going to bring, if I bring the rail in that way, we can bring a rail line through there. In fact, what we could do, I put, actually if we put you here like that, then puts the rail line on that side. We put it that way round like that. Yeah, I think if we put it there, I'm going to leave some space around because we've got to put in cargo sheds as well, so I don't want to put it really tight in there. I think, yeah, I think if we put it out here like that, and what that means is that that's no good. I forgot about the distillery. Well, we can get the distillery there. Oh, that'd be pretty cool actually. What you can do, if you press control, you can just do that with the bulldozer. It's one of the few times I actually use the bulldozer. Back to here. Pick the clone up again. And we're going to do it properly this time. We're going to shift this out. Yeah, we're going to put plenty of space around it. It's not like we have a shortage of real estate. So we're going to put you out that way. And that means that I can definitely get in the alcohol production on the end here, like that. Actually, if I flip that way round and just put that slightly this way, there's also, we got to think a little bit about there. Now, so we've now got this here, here, and here. We are going to need a cargo pickup position. So that's something else what we're going to need to think about. For this one, I think we're going to go for a 6. We'll put you there. Just control just to get rid of the. So we're going to put you here. Again, we're going to go in very, very tight. That will be the drop off from there. Now the distillery here, if you look at this, this has an internal storage of 15 tons of alcohol. Now, truthfully, and bearing in mind that you can get 6 tons of alcohol a day. Now you could put in a small warehouse next to this to take the surplus. I don't know if there's one in here that's part of the default. You could probably tuck in, yeah, let's tuck in a small warehouse. The downside with this is the fact that any excess alcohol will be trapped inside there. In fact, I think what we will do is I'm going to put, I think I will go for a small cargo. Why is the small one look bigger than, that's the 6? They're both the same size. Never knew that. This is the reason why I like these ones. I'll just put this in as a demonstration. These are a lot more, one, they're a lot cheaper to build, and two, they're really good for slipping into awkward corners like that. And so we've now got that there. I need to keep the rail line open, so as a reminder of that, I'm gonna just come out like that, and they're probably getting, no, they were cancelled. I think what I will do, we don't necessarily need a, what I'm going to do is come out. Now, one tip I will give you, for if you can have trains that are going to carry crops, you do need to have a fairly, I'm going to say, big gaps between lane tracks, but I will cover rail construction in another video. Oh, horrible. My finger glitched out. And what I'm going to do is, again, we're just going to lay the concrete track there. And we're going to come up around like that. Of course, we're going to need a crossover because this has got two connections. In fact, what I'll do now is I'm just going to trim this back because I've just had an idea, but I'm not going to talk about it. And we'll just accept that. That's the reminder of that there. And of course, so what we need to do now is just put in all the roads that we're going to need to build. I think I would probably put, we're going to put a road, oh, no. We'll put a road up right out through here because we're going to need to make this connection like that. And then we can build in, so we basically got what we need now. We've got our cargo station here. Now, one thing I will say about the silo is that we do need a cargo station here as well, because if we've got local farms, we're going to need a lot of drop-offs, and we need to put in a big cargo station. Flip that round so the road's on the right side. In fact, we could probably just tuck you on this corner here like that, actually. Just use that little bit of a junction there. Now, one thing I will point out is that the actual road connections to the silos are one way. And so you get one way in here, and then you've got two ones coming out. And so what we're going to do is just do that and that. And you need both connections simply because your fire trucks won't get in otherwise. I think what we'll probably do is put a bridge over here, but I need to work on that separately. So what we've got now, so the only thing left we got to do now is think about where our workers are going to go. And what you've got over here is we got and this is where these factory connections can be a little bit of a pain, because we've got our clothing industry here, and we've got our kind of alcohol and food production here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bus stop, and we're going to put it about there. Now we can quite easily connect that up with that, because trucks aren't going to be coming through here. That's just going to be a service road there, and what that means is the workers from here can just walk up the road to go into it. What we can do next is come to here, to here. Now another tip is that when you connect a bus platform to a factory, you can't manually build this because for some strange reason there is no access through here. So just so if you've got to manually build something like this, all you do is just put in a temporary mud footpath, and then what will happen is that where's my road crew? Where are you, roadie crew? Actually, I'd actually demonstrate it, actually, come to think of it. So if I break that there and come here, and I say it there, it says here road connection not. That's partly because that's not built, but you will still get that even if I auto built this like that, and then come in here. It will still tell you that there's not connection. So what you've actually got to do is do that, and then what can actually happen is it will then let you allocate to that like that. So we now got a bus platform here. Now we could put a we're probably going to need a road connection through there. So what we can do is come out a little bit like that and come into there. I won't build that because I want to be close to there, and I like my roads to be long. Now what you can do is I can put an asphalt footpath through here. Now I am going to break this road just for demonstration purposes like that, And what that should do is allow workers to get to that clothing factory. And of course this time, because this footpath's connected to this road, we can build this directly. We don't need a... So again, just to show you. No, road connection. Oh, that's because these haven't been built. The fun bit is we've got to get workers out to here. And there's a little trick that we can do. I just need to put the roads in first. Run a road through here. We're probably going to build something out from there. So we'll put a road connection there to there. And what you can do, and this can be very, very useful. If you come to footpaths, and what you can do is put in and zoom right in, and what you could... Now there are overpass. You can build overpasses and underpasses. What I've actually found is that underpasses are a little bit more easier to put in than overpasses. And what you can do here is come there and you go down to F3. Now these can be a little bit tricky with respect to buildings. Sometimes you've kind of got to go round. If you press Q, you can get under the... Yeah, when you're kind of maneuvering through buildings, it can be a little bit tricky to get that underpass in, but it's well worth it, because what we can do now, again, just use asphalt to get maximum bang per buck. And what we can do is create a little road like a path like that, and if it's all gone well and we've got a good walking distance, you can see what, because of the underpass, that means we can get workers to every single building from a single bus stop. And it means that what that does, it comes back to reducing costs, because otherwise what we'd have had to have done is put another bus stop over here and another set of buses, so we can get all our workers out to here. And I've rambled on a lot longer than necessary, and of course what we got now here is a massive building project. Of course what we can do is there, press control, get rid of all this lot. This is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Obviously we've got a lot of building to do, and probably what I'll be doing in the next part is actually looking at railways. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.